You know, I love grapevines. They're one of our most beautiful plants. In summer, they're so rich and productive, and then in autumn they go through beautiful tones. But it's in winter, when the months are at their coldest, that we need to prune them to secure a really good crop next season. Peter May is one of Australia's leading horticulturists, and he has been growing grapes as a hobby for 25 years. Now, Peter, do you have to prune these vines regularly?
Well, I prune them every year, John. It's part of just routine management of grapevines. We do it mostly to control the amount of fruit that they set, which is really about making sure they get ripe properly.
Right.
If I let the vines do everything they wanted to do, I'd never get it ripe. So one of the main jobs of pruning is to tell the vine how many bunches you want it to have, and that gives me a crop that I can get ripe in reasonable time in the year.
So how old is this one, Peter?
This is a one-year-old vine now. I'm going to set it up for next season by pruning off all the growth that's made except for one shoot, and I'll cut that one back to 2 buds, and that lets it grow a nice straight trunk for next season.
So you're going to be really hard with this?
Yeah, it's a mistake that some people make when they're training young vines to not prune them tough the first season. You want to make them force a good strong shoot to give it a nice straight trunk.
So what do we have here, Peter?
Well, this is a vine that's a year older, John. So last winter it was pruned back hard like those ones I just did, and this one has grown a nice strong straight shoot up to the training wire here.
So it's grown, what, probably the best part of a metre this year?
Yes, yeah.
Now, what would you do with this year?
Well, basically, I'm going to look for wood that's about a pencil thick and prune off everything else.
When will you get some fruit from these, Pete?
Well, I'm going to train 4 shoots out from the top of this vine this season, and so I'll get half a dozen bunches of fruit this year.
Now, I guess this would be a third-year vine.
Yeah, this is a 3-year-old vine, John. It's done what I wanted it to do, and I can start pruning it now as though it was a proper grapevine.
So what will that entail?
Well, I'm going to look for 2 canes, which will carry a reasonable crop next season, and 2 replacement spurs. And their job is to set up next year's canes.
So how do you pick spurs, Peter?
Well, I'm looking for a couple of shoots that are within about a hand span of the wire, and I'll use that one there and this one here. They'll be cut back short, and then the canes will be left a bit longer. The last thing I'm going to do is just wrap the cane down on the wire. I've taken it off, and I'm wrapping it in the reverse direction that it was before, and by doing that, the vine locks on the wires.
So why have we left these spurs?
Well, their job is to replace the fruiting canes next season, so I'll get a shoot off those, which will become the new fruiting cane. I'll cut the old one off.
And then, presumably, you'll get 2 new spurs again from this 12 months hence.
That's right. So every time you prune it, you set up the same pattern, and it's a self-replicating pattern, so it just keeps the vine productive and with the fruit crop close to the trunk.
So that's how the structure of the vine is created. Once vines are established, there are 2 different ways to prune.
There's cane pruning, and I'll show you that in a moment, and the other system is called spur pruning. And with spur pruning, you set up a permanent branch on the trellis wire, and you cut back the shoots that rise off that to 2 bud spurs, and then each year as you prune those, you replace those 2 bud spurs with new ones, and so the system is self-replicating. So to set the spurs up, I find the lowest 2 buds on the cane, and then I prune through that. This shoot I remove entirely. I take out every second shoot because there are 2 buds on each of these spurs, and so by taking out the intermediate shoots I get the same density of shoots along the cane. The next one I cut to 2 buds. 1 bud, 2 buds, cut. And any shoots that are rising here in the middle of the vine, they get cleaned right out.
OK, that's spur pruning. Now let's see how cane pruning works.
This is relatively common in small vineyards, particularly in cool climates. There's a bit of evidence that it's slightly more productive. It's more fiddly, but I actually like doing it.
So it's sort of therapeutic?
The whole reason for this is therapy, John.
Right.
So here's the cane I wrapped on last season with its shoots.
Yeah.
And my job is to replace that with a new one. There's another one on this side of the vine, and I wanted 2 new canes, 2 new replacement spurs, and then I'll move on to the next vine. So
your job now is to get rid of these old ones, sort out this lot to get the 2 best to wrap on, and leave 2 really nice spurs.
That's it. First off, I'll clean out stuff that's in the middle of the vine that I don't want to keep, and then prune out the old fruiting cane. Identify a replacement spur for next season. I'll use this one here. The last job is to take the fruiting cane that I've selected and to cut it to length and then to wrap it onto the wire.
Now, Peter, what's the secret of your success?
You've got to be prepared to prune them hard when they're young to make sure you get the right form in the vines, set things up properly, and thereafter it's about getting the balance of pruning right, which is something everybody has to work out for their own vineyard. But don't be afraid to prune. It's the key to it.